What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, today we are breaking down the Detroit Lions draft class. Guys, I'm not going to bury the lead. This is honestly sneakily one of my favorite drafts of any team in the NFL. I love what the Lions did. I'm going to break down exactly why. It wasn't a ton of sexy picks, not something that I feel like the national media got super excited about or anything, but just as a guy who's been studying the draft for the past like 4 months and really did have an opinion coming into this draft as to what the Lions should do. I mean, they knocked it out of the park. Knocked it absolutely out of the park, in my opinion. Let's break down their total draft here. Obviously got really lucky to land a Penei Sewell out of Oregon at 7 overall. The Dolphins at 6 passed on him, ended up taking Jalen Waddle instead. Penei Sewell, fell in their lap, and I mean, they had to run to the board with this pick. I mean, it's a home run, you can't miss. And then, going forward, really attacked the defensive line in a draft class that was kind of devoid of talent on that defensive interior defensive line. They got two of my favorites. I mean, honestly, literally, they got my second and third ranked defensive linemen in the second and third round. I thought it was really great. Amon-Ra St. Brown, really, really good value in the 4th round. Love that. Derek Barnes, not gonna lie, not a guy that I watched film on pre-draft, but he's a guy that I was aware of, and certainly some upside. They traded up from the 5th to land him, and they actually in that trade got an extra 7th in return. Turned that into a Jamar Jefferson, another guy I have on my draft. I have a draft profile on. By the way, I have a draft profile on Aleem McNeil, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jamar Jefferson. So if you're a Lions fan, you're curious on like a deep dive of what I think about all these players, hey, you can check it out. I have those on the channel. And really, just when you look at this draft as a whole, I mean, really, it's just the perfect draft for a team that is in rebuild. This is the first year of their 3-year rebuild, right? So what do you do when you're rebuilding? You build out the trenches. Those are the positions you go for. You build out your team, and then you draft your wide receivers. Then you draft your sexy picks, right? They have a quarterback on the roster right now, so quarterback wasn't going to be a need right now. They're not going to be good regardless of who's under center at this point. It doesn't matter. They're kind of devoid of talent pretty much everywhere, right? So that's okay. That's fine. This is rebuild time. You go out and you build out your trenches. That's what they did. Defensive tackle in the 2nd and 3rd round, offensive tackle in the 1st, and just getting solid plug and play guys that are going to help your football team and also build out a culture of bite the kneecaps, right? You got to love that. I love the line. I think that's going to be a saying for a long time in Detroit, right? So let's get into it. Let's talk about Penei Sewell really quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Elite prospect, right? I mean, we're talking about a gifted athlete, violent striker, 20 years old. He's just a dude who's been the top tackle in the class for like 2 years now. We knew last year at this time that Penei Sewell was going to come out and be a top 5 pick. We knew coming into this draft like the whole time. This is the Trevor Lawrence of the tackle position for this year. It's slam dunk. We knew what to expect, and obviously he fell a little bit because teams valued other positions more. But I mean, more power to the Lions for getting a guy who, I mean, just going to be a stud. You can protect your quarterback, whoever ends up being your quarterback for the next 10 years, whether it is a Jared Goff or if they end up drafting a quarterback next year, the year after, whatever it ends up being, they have their centerpiece at that offensive line position at the left tackle. You're set there. You got to love that. And then moving on, they get, again, like I said, one of my favorite linemen in the 2nd round, Levi Awuzarike. He's a guy I certainly thought had a chance to go 1st round, especially in a weak defensive tackle class. For me, it was Levi and Christian Barmore were like the best 2 tackles in this class, and I actually thought Levi had a chance to go ahead of Christian Barmore. He obviously didn't, but he didn't go far behind him either. High motor guy, really strong dude, good initial strike. Is he have like great lateral movement? No, his hands and feet are just raw, I would say at this point. So that's kind of some of the negatives. But man, you have a physically gifted human being who's going to be playing that 5 tech and just be a wrecking ball in the interior defensive line. Just a dude that's kind of plug and play, right? I really believe he has some plug and play aspects to his game. He should be a really good D tackle moving forward. And then you get a guy who, honestly, I liked this guy's play style more. Aleem McNeil. This is a nose tackle. This is like a totally different style of human than you got with a Levi Awuzarike. We're talking about a guy 6'2", 317 pounds. He is just he is an anvil. He's a guy in that middle of that defensive line that's going to stand there and push centers and guards onto their ass every single play. Speed to extension is really good. He gets up into guys' chest really, really well. Good run stopper, good athleticism. This is a guy who they showed clips of him hitting the baseball out of the park when he got drafted in the 3rd round. There's a lot to like about him athletically. Whether they want to shade him over the center or if they want to move him to 3 tech, I have no problem with it wherever they want to put him. I don't think it matters. Anywhere on the defensive line, I obviously don't put him on the end, but anywhere on that interior defensive line, I have no problem with it. I think he's going to be really, really good player. He was one of my guys I did a draft profile on because I just fell in love with. I fell in love with the player. He's a guy I really was hoping would go day 2. Certainly knew he had a chance to go 4th, 5th round, but I love this pick. I could not love this pick more. They just grabbed one of my guys, so I'm gonna love that regardless of anything else. So they grabbed one of my guys, and also it fit into the narrative that I was pushing throughout the offseason of the Lions need to embrace the rebuild and attack the trenches. Get your trenches up. There's no such thing as a bad team with a good offensive line. It doesn't happen very often for a reason, because you want to build that up. There's no such thing as a bad defense with a great defensive line, right? It doesn't happen a whole lot. You want to build up the trenches, because that is where football games are won and lost, right? So I love the mindset. I love the intensity from this Lions organization, really diving into everything that embodies bite the kneecap. And when you talk about biting the kneecaps, you don't have to go any farther than their corner out of Syracuse, Ifantu Melifonwu, and if I butcher that name, I do apologize, but he is a big physical corner who will get in your face, push you around. I mean, I think he's perfect for a press man type of coverage. I don't really want him he's not really a nickel. I've seen a couple people saying oh, he might have to play safety, and I could see that. He has the physicality and the tackling and all those things that could be that, and maybe he'd be a good in the box safety. But to me, I don't want him being my nickel corner at all. I don't think that he has the quickness and the hips for that. He has the quickness, but maybe just the hips and change of direction skills is subpar, I would say. But man, just as a guy who can match up with those boundary wide receivers, he's not letting you catch those 50-50 balls. He's too physical. He's too physical to point attack, and it's a good kind of physical. It's not he's holding and he's getting scrappy. No, he's on your ass. He's making you work for every single yard. He's making you work for every route that you're running. It's that kind of physical. It's a really, really positive play for me. I do think he's a little bit scheme dependent as far as the team has to know how to use him and has to use them the right way. Now, again, I don't have a good feel for what the Lions are planning on doing defensively from a schematic standpoint. So I have to assume this guy is going to fit into their scheme, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know exactly what their plan for him is and things like that. Obviously a new organization coming in, whenever there's turnover like that, I need a year to at least see, okay, what are they doing? What do they want to do? Things like that. I'm not going to, until we see it on the field, I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what their plan is for things like that. And then I am going to talk about a couple of their skill positions that guys they got. And I thought Amon-Ra St. Brown had a chance to go as early as round 2. And the reason I thought that is because he reminded me a lot of a Van Jefferson who went in the 2nd round to the Rams, last year. So I thought, okay, well, that's where the Rams valued a Van Jefferson, which I think the Rams overdrafted him a little bit, to be totally honest. This is the perfect range for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3rd, 4th round. You just got an elite route runner, and athleticism's just okay. He's probably gonna have to be a big slot type of guy, but man, he is an elite route runner. He can do everything. I think he can play on the outside. I just would probably expect him to be inside. And then Jermar Jefferson, who obviously isn't going to be your starting running back or anything. It's just kind of a lottery pick at the very end of the draft, but he's a guy who I kind of liked. I thought, there were some games where it was man, this dude's a superstar, and then there were some games where it's man, this guy's undrafted, right? So the inconsistency, I think, was his biggest issue. And hey, you never know. That could just be, okay, he was playing hurt or something along those lines. And, you never know stuff like that. I think there's some upside there. In the 7th round, hey, running backs hit in the 7th round all the time. Look at the Dolphins. They're making a living on running backs in the 7th round. Obviously, you have your number 1 in a DeAndre Swift. You still have Kerryon Johnson on the roster, who, man, I loved him coming out, and he's busted for the most part. But I just have this a little bit of hope. It's just a little bitty bit of hope that maybe he turns it around and actually ends up being good. I'm not an idiot for loving him so much coming out, but we'll see what happens with that. Let's move on to best and worst move. Best move, I'm put Luck of the Irish, because whatever ancient ritual they did to make Penei Sewell fall to 7 overall, whatever cosmic deity that they had to pray to, they did something right. They had to do something outside of the realm of football to make Penei Sewell fall to 7. There was no way he was going to fall to 7. Falls in their lap at 7. I'm just being silly here, but I love that pick, and I love the fact that the Lions kind of got lucky there with some teams valuing some other positions ahead of them. And then worst move for me was just I don't really have a good one. I'd be honest. I love this draft from top to bottom. I love pretty much everything they did. So I'm going to say more picks. I think they could have they could have acquired some more picks. Like, they only made 6 selections in this draft. They came in without a 6th or 7th round pick. They trade back up into the 4th round. That's why they didn't have that 5th rounder. So yeah, just a limited number of picks there. But that's grasping at straws when it comes to a worse move. I loved this draft, and we're going to talk about my grades here. I break the grades down into 3 separate things. I'm going to put up the players and draft value back to back here because it's the same grade, and I've never done this before. A++. I say I've never done this before. This is my first year of actually giving grades like this, and it's just my first video doing that, and we're not that far along, so it's not that impressive that I've never done this before. But A++. I love the players they got. I have waxed poetic long enough on this video talking about how much I love these guys and how much of a high potential I think they all have, right? I'm a big fan of the players they got at every level of the draft, really. And then, obviously the draft value, I mean, they hit it out of the park. To me, they got one of the top 2 defensive tackles in the 2nd round. There was a huge drop off after that. That's huge value. They got the best offensive tackle in the draft at 7. Huge value. They got, honestly, defensive tackle in the 3rd. My next tier, another really, really good player that I really, really liked in the 3rd. I thought that was great value as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown was one of those wide receivers that fell a little bit more than I think he should have. I thought he deserved to go 3rd round. I really did. But I think, the NFL values just elite athleticism above all else right now. So guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's just, really good athlete, can run, but was more like a route runner and a technician. I think they didn't value that aspect of his game as much as I maybe even expected. I certainly thought he was a 2nd to 3rd round type of guy. So, that makes sense why he fell there. Still, great value in my opinion, really. Just all across the board, love this draft altogether. And then needs, I'm giving it an A+, mainly just because, it's not an A++ because they didn't have enough picks to hit all their needs. But this team is devoid of talent in a lot of ways, right? And I don't say that to be mean. I say that in just a real sense. Like, you've got a raw deal with the last organization. Like, they kind of ran the Lions into the ground a little bit, and they made some poor decisions here and there. So now you're in a position where you are in rebuild mode, and that's okay. I'm excited to see the rebuild. I love the teams that are in rebuild mode. Look at the Dolphins this year. They're feeling pretty good. They were in rebuild mode not that long ago. I mean, look at the Cardinals a couple years ago. They were in rebuild mode not that long ago. It turns around quick in the NFL, and it all starts and ends with the draft and hitting on some of these mid-round picks, hitting early, and I think this was a really, really good start for this franchise and for this new organization that is trying to bite the kneecaps. But all right, guys, that is all I have on the Detroit Lions. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you enjoy this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of NFL draft content stuff. I feel like I'm a really growing channel, and I feel like I've been kind of hitting my stride as far as like getting pretty okay at explaining my points, and I think I'm putting out some good stuff lately. So join the journey. Hoping to grow into a big channel one of these days. Until then, we'll see you next time, guys. Peace.